2, 1. Good day, everyone. My name is Carlos. Welcome to one more episode or another episode of My Life Without Limits podcast. I really hope you guys have a great time. I want to introduce our co-host, the brain of the podcast, the producer of the podcast, well, the producer in the background of the podcast, the everything of the podcast, basically, Leah Eisen. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. Thank you. Keeping busy. We've got just so many great programs starting here at CP Alberta, and I've been working on getting the word out about all these great programs that we're doing. So it's really good.
That's great. You've been very busy. I've seen you going very, very busy this week. Last week even, you were very, very busy as well. So
yeah.
Guys, she is working. It's not only the podcast that she's doing. She has a whole bunch of other stuff that she does. I also work in the background, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it. I promise I will. I do work at some point. So yeah, so it's been a busy week for both of us. Poker tournament is coming up this weekend.
We have a poker tournament this weekend.
This weekend on Saturday, poker tournament in the Argyle Casino. So I'm gonna be selling 50/50s for people who want to show up, and that's gonna be fun. And so make sure you guys show up if you guys would like to. I don't know if they can show up last minute and be a part of the poker tournament.
I think it's fine. There's always extra room at the tables, but I think by the time this comes out, it's gonna be all over anyway.
Oh yeah. That's true. That's true.
So wait until we'll probably do another one in the fall, probably.
In the fall, yeah.
But we always got events coming up, but so there'll be more for people to come to.
For sure. Well, we have a wonderful guest today. That this time in particular, Leah did not track this person down. It was not Leah who basically creeped on this person because
no talking involved in this one. Yeah.
It was all me. So I'm kind of proud of it because it's always Leah who creeps on people, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. She actually does her research very well, and so I really appreciate that. But this time I have a wonderful guest that I have met a few years. I think it was a year and a half ago to 2 years. Maybe this guest will correct me. We met through a mutual person that we both know, and we really clicked it on very well. So we started to have great conversations. He also has a little bit CP. He's fantastic. His name is Gerard Schultz from Edmonton, and I will let him speak and introduce himself. Welcome, Gerald. Gerard, sorry, I just called you the wrong name. I felt so bad. Gerard,
okay, not the first time.
Gerard, for being in the show. Thank you so much for taking the time and for putting the time to be here with us. Thanks so much.
Hey, Carlos and Leah, thank you so much for having me on. And I think, Carlos, your timeline's about right. I think it's about a year and a half now that we've known each other, and it's been a lot of fun. It's nice. It's nice knowing other people, getting to know other people within the community with cerebral palsy, but also just other generally great people. So, I really appreciate you both having me on the show. Looking forward to just having a conversation about life.
Perfect. Well, Gerard, thank you once again for being here. And Gerard, I just wanted to basically start by to see if you can let our audience know about yourself, like what's your upbringing, how was your childhood a little bit, who you are as a human being, that we can have this conversation for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to have that conversation. So I'm currently 35. I was born obviously with cerebral palsy. I don't know too many details overall about how the diagnosis came. What my understanding is my birth was complicated, and when I was a newborn and going into toddler stage of life, that my development was slower than everybody else's. So when, for example, my father mentions that, you know, when you're picking up a baby, the baby is always generally leaning towards the person's chest to kind of cuddle up. And for myself, when I was being picked up, I don't know, my dad said it, or, you know, I've just inferred it, but basically I was kind of like dead weight. I wouldn't really,
Right. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't lean towards, I would kind of just lean backwards and not really assist. And then when we were talking with friends, and my parents were talking with family friends and stuff with children about my age, and they were kind of looking like, well, you know, he's not really crawling as much, or he's just kind of there, or he's not really, I don't know if he's developing quite as well as he should be. So the conversation started at that point, probably about a year, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, thanks to the wonderful teams here at the well, it was the University Hospital before the Stollery was formed, and then through the Glen Rose Rehabilitation Hospital here in Edmonton, the diagnosis of cerebral palsy
Mm-hmm.
came out. Now, I'm very fortunate. It's a very mild case. It is a spastic triplegic, so both of my legs and my
Mm-hmm.
right arm are affected. I'm very fortunate that my day-to-day life isn't necessarily impacted as much by it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I say to people when they're like, well, what is CP like for you? Is, well, I'm not about to go hike a mountain, you know,
Right.
but
I'm not
I will
either, and
go,
I don't have CP. So.
yeah, you
But
know,
yeah,
like
so I get you.
as an example, in 2016, I went to New York City, and the one day I think I wound up doing about 38,000 steps.
Oof.
I
Wow.
was dead by
Wow.
it was about 6 p.m. and we were at that point, and we were about to go somewhere else. And I'm like, no, I need a pub, I need a beer, and I'm not moving anywhere else. So,
Yeah.
Get it. I get it.
but day to day, you know, it doesn't affect me too badly.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, you know, I'm super grateful to my parents for you know, recognizing that there was a problem
Yes.
and being able to, you know, be put in touch with the right people at the Glen Rose and Dr. Watt and all the team there that recognized it right off the bat and were able to give my parents a diagnosis and a treatment, or, you know, a treatment plan that was good, you know,
Yeah.
something that they could follow.
And
Oh,
people that
okay.
they're not able to see you, or they didn't see you, you walk very, very well. You are, like you said, like you mentioned, you have a mild case of CP, but you are very well walking wise. You don't need an assistant device, right? So you don't need a walker or crutches. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. No walker, no wheelchair, no assistance at all. I don't qualify for the disabled placard in my vehicle. I can drive. I can function day to day. And actually, I was telling a coworker the other day that I was doing this podcast, and he's like, "What do you mean you got CP? You look fine."
Oh,
So in
no
general,
way.
I'm very grateful for that, you know, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
subconsciously I know that, and I can feel when I'm having bad days and things like that. But
Sure.
I'm grateful that, you know, the general public, it's kind of like, oh yeah, he walks maybe a little bit stiff or things like that, but for the most part, it's like it's not noticeable, and I'm super grateful for
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
you find it really a good thing that people don't point out that you have CP, or do you prefer to come up to people and say, I'm Gerard and I have a little bit of mild CP, or you prefer not to? Because the reason why I ask this question is because some people feel uncomfortable, right, when it comes to that, if they don't have a visible disability, like in your case, Gerard, and compared to, for example, my case where it's more visible than yours,
Mhm.
right? Because of the,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Well, and Carlos, you know this about me. I'm a wide open book. You can ask
yes.
me any question. Nothing embarrasses me. I'll answer whatever. Sometimes maybe a little more brutally honest than I should, but I will
Excellent.
answer absolutely everything. So
We
I
like
don't
that.
normally start off, you know, hi, I'm Gerard, I've got cerebral palsy. Like, it doesn't normally come up in conversations.
Mhm.
There's times where, like someone will ask me, like, did you hurt yourself? Like, that's a common one.
Yeah.
And that's usually when I'm having bad days. I can feel my muscles spasming on me and doing some things. And it's like, no, actually, I'm good. It's I make the joke at, that I'm a 90-year-old trapped in a 30-year-old body, just with how my body progression has gone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But and then they laugh. And as the years have gone on, I think I've gone to 95-year-old in a 35-year-old body, trying to keep that gap about the same kind of thing. But no, it's usually at that point when I'll say something like that, and then they'll laugh, and I'm just like, no, I've got a mild case of cerebral palsy. It does affect my motor skills, and some days it's more annoying than others. The common question I'll get is it painful? And I don't know. Right. I don't really know what pain is. Like,
well, it's you don't know any different, right? Like, you don't know if this is normal or if this is not, because you've lived with it your whole life, right?
I laugh at the scale, when you're in the hospital and they're like, the doctor's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain? I don't know.
Yeah.
2. What? And then I get the weird look, and I'm like, is that the wrong answer? I'm getting the nurses looking at me like, how are you not like screaming for morphine right now? Like,
right.
I remember I had one surgery. I was 14, I think 14 or 15 at the time, and I will never forget this. It was like the day after surgery. And it was major orthopedic surgery. I had both of my thighs broken and rotated out because I was walking pigeon-toed. And then plates inserted to fuse everything back together. And I was off of morphine the day after the surgery. And the day after that, I think I was on to regular Tylenol. Like, I was like within 3 to 4 days, I was off of painkillers. Like, so my pain receptor is weird. So when people ask me, what scale of 1 to 10, I'm kind of like, sometimes I feel like I have to like artificially increase the number just to make people not look at me like I'm or something.
And that's interesting what you're saying, because when it comes to pain, some people have pain and some people don't. Or some people have pain, like in my case, for example, I have pain, but I have a very high tolerance of pain. So if people ask me, how's your pain? I would say, my pain is 4, but actually in reality, it might be 9, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it because I have a higher tolerance of pain. So it's very interesting what you're commenting, Gerard, because it's just very funny, because some people actually have to take morphine, or they have to take what's the other one, ibuprofen or Tylenol, daily, or every 2 days to feel to take away the pain. And to know that you, for instance, have a mild CP or CP as well, and you don't go through that pain, you might go through spasms, but not through pain. That's very interesting, very cool that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, like, for the most part, the painkiller regimen is if I like trip and fall and like bruise myself or something, I might take something just to be a little preventative about it. But it's usually a couple, like 1 or 2 extra strength Tylenol, and then I'm done. Like, it's usually oh crap, okay, well, let's just get myself off the ground and just keep moving.
Yeah. But if you're in pain all the time, like some kind of chronic pain, and you don't know what absolutely no pain feels like to you, yes, what a 2 to you could act for someone like me could be a 9. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that's interesting. I never have thought about it that way. That it's like someone who's colorblind, and they just don't know any difference. So they don't know, like, you would say like, oh, but you're missing out on all these great colors, or you're missing out, but it's like they don't know any difference, so they're not really missing out. So it's like, yeah.
Well, and by that token, I for myself, again, I'm fortunate, where you mentioned the missing out. Like, I don't miss out on, I don't play sports. I'm good. I'm totally fine to be an armchair quarterback or an armchair GM. You can ask Carlos when we go to watch hockey games how much I scream and criticize absolutely every move. But I'm perfectly fine to not play organized sports. I'm perfectly fine to not do that type of stuff. Some people are like, oh, that's gotta suck. You know what? For me, it isn't. It's fine. I don't need it. I don't need to go have that type of participation to validate myself or anything like that.
And talking a little bit about that, you did mention that you don't play sports, and it's perfectly fine. What do you like to do when you're not? First of all, what do you do professionally so people know that people like yourself and like myself actually work? We're not sitting there receiving money from the
Yeah.
government. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if people are, some people are that's perfect, that's respectful, but some people like ourselves, you know, we are actually working and we're actually doing stuff. So what did Gerard do for a living?
Okay, so a great question. I am a chartered professional accountant. I have been doing accounting for about 15 years now. Actually, next month will be the start of my year 16 actually in work. I work for a firm in Edmonton here. Just started with them back in September actually. So my day-to-day work is, excuse me, it's like a lot of high-end corporate tax planning, corporate restructurings, that type of stuff. So I spent after I graduated, I went to after I got out of high school, I went to NAIT for a bit and got the bulk of my diploma in accounting taken care of. And then I was lucky to find employment in the industry, so I went to switch to a part-time. And the span of from 2008 up until 2016, basically, it was a span of working full time and then taking night classes towards getting my degree and then eventually my CPA designation. And you know, it was a lot of work, but I got my CPA designation in October of 2016, and just kind of been moving forward ever since.
So it is a busy time for you right now because it's
Oh,
tax
absolutely. You
season.
know, it's tax season.
Well, thank you for taking the time.
Hey, my pleasure. You know, it's nice to get out of that and change tracks, and
Yeah,
helps keep me going anyways.
that is a job I struggle with numbers, like just even phone numbers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, good for you to,
Thank
that's a
God for
job
phones.
that,
At least everything's stored. You push the button and someone's like, "What's your number?" I don't know.
I don't know.
But even then, it's funny. I make the comment like, "I suck at math. I hate math." But you're like, "But you're an accountant." Well, you know what? The computer does the math for me. I just have to look at it and
True.
make sure that the numbers make sense and what it's spitting
That's
out
true.
sounds reasonable. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if it wasn't for Excel and it wasn't for the various softwares and stuff, we'd be having a different conversation right now.
But you use Excel, which is a very, very sweet platform to use.
That's a hard one
It's
too.
not easy to use. I mean, if you become like, and you don't have to like numbers to really like use Excel properly. To this day I haven't master Excel, to be honest. I would love to
I haven't
master up
either.
one day, but to to know that you use that on your job in a particular basis, that's something new I just learned today from my friend Gerard here, because I didn't know that he used for a lot of his job Excel, which is a very
Yeah.
interesting idea. So Gerard, we know what you do for a living, and we know that you have mild CP. What do you like to do for when it comes to your hobbies, when it comes to you know, to relaxing, to have fun, to you know, to kind of release your, not stress maybe, because I don't know if you have much stress going on, but just to be you in your downtime in a way.
It's spending time with family and friends. It's not only in addition to screaming at the TV, you know, when the Oilers are doing something stupid.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, it's usually traveling. I've got you know, I got bitten with the travel bug, you know, at a young age, and I enjoy being able to do that. Haven't done an awful lot over the years. It's mostly been Canada and the US. I was fortunate enough in November and December to be able to go down to Mexico a couple of times.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend's family, there was a wedding in the family, so I was able to go down in November and then spent Christmas down there as well with her family and stuff, which was great. But usually the way things work for me is I've got at least one trip in the hopper at a time. Heading out to Vancouver to Whistler for a course in July, so looking at doing some planning and just doing a road trip out there and coming back through Kelowna and bringing a vehicle full of wine back and things like that. So, yeah, it's traveling, heading out, you know, if I can go to the mountains, and, you know, I'm always looking for a good reason to go out and hit a hot spring, let's be honest.
Right.
Especially with the muscles, if I'm having a rough go, it's like, okay, you know, I'm for a number of years, we went to Radium every September, and going out to those, I would make sure, it was funny, my body in like July and August would start to like screw up on me a little bit. And it's
Right.
like, okay, there's the sign. My body knows Radium's
Yep.
coming. And I would go and sit in the hot springs there for a couple hours, go a couple of times, and just
Especially
relax.
driving, because that'll be, yeah. So that gives your body that break.
Yeah,
that it
exactly.
needs.
I enjoy driving. I like flying too. I'm an aviation nerd. I enjoy plane spotting and that type of stuff too. But
Yeah.
I generally, if it's within a day or two of a drive, I don't mind driving, just because
Yeah.
then I have access to my own vehicle. And you know, have you seen the price of car rentals lately? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's quite challenging when it came to driving, because some people with CP or other disabilities who are a little bit less limited mobility, so they're able to move still, that they can drive. And so how was the challenge for you to get your license? Was it, maybe it's a dumb question, but it's an important question for me, because some people are, in a way, myself, I'm curious, because sometimes I'm wondering, like, should I get a license? Should I don't? Should I wait for the Tesla that move by itself? You know, and but people like yourself, that went through a license, has a vehicle now. Obviously, your vehicle has to be insured. I heard that. I don't know if this happened to you or not, that the insurance is higher for a person with disabilities. In a way, I'm not sure if your insurance asks you on it or not. Or what's the challenges and what was the successes when it comes to driving for you?
Well, for me, I didn't have any problems. Again, with my case is mild enough.
Yeah.
When I was learning to drive, the one thing that was a little different is both, you know, my dad and my brother are both automotive nerds, and they love vehicles. My brother's a mechanic, and his various sports cars always come in stick shift. So that was the one part where when I learned, you know, my driving is entirely with automatic transmissions. When the comment was, well, you know, let's go buy a beater 1985 Civic or something like that I can go learn stick on, when I was like 15, 16. And I was a little hesitant on that, just because of, while it is minor and I can still drive, like I do use my right foot for the gas and the brake, I'm able to, like, I have no assistive aids on my vehicle. My insurance is, it's like I'm a able-bodied person. I don't have any issues there. My only drawback at the time was my concern on driving a manual transmission vehicle was, in the event I can't move my leg my right leg in a pinch, I kind of wanted that left leg available to get on the brake without worrying about a clutch or doing other damage and stuff. Now, I mean, I've been driving for over 10 years now. It's less of a deal. It's now just on the list to do. And, you know, getting my brother to, you know, he's offered a number of times. I just need to take him up on, he's got a daily driver manual. So now it's a matter of just going into an empty parking lot on a Saturday and playing around and seeing what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and the reason why I ask is because also with your muscle spasm that you get sometimes, I was wondering if you had some challenges with like the accelerator and the brake, but you already kind of touched on that, which I appreciate, on that you don't have much challenges on that. When it comes to myself, for example, or some other people, I wouldn't be able to move my feet quick enough to use the right foot for the brake and the gas. So in this case, mine would be assisted, but it's kind of cool to hear that you are able to drive. And I mean, I've been on your vehicle. For those people who are listening, I've been on Gerard's vehicle, and I'm still alive. He drives very very well, very well.
I didn't kill Carlos, so that's
I haven't either,
that's where the
so.
bar is. It's not, let's not kill or freak out my passengers. That's about where the bar is set. So
that's what no, and honestly, like, I have other friends who have a disability, and honestly, your driving is fantastic in compared to other people that I've been on vehicles. With your vehicle, I always felt really safe. With other people, I wouldn't say the same thing. With Leah also, I felt really safe. She's a pretty good driver.
I'm very
well,
cautious, yeah.
and I mean, I gotta, you know, obviously my my brother started driving before I did, even though he's the younger one. And between my dad and my brother, they both did a really good job at kind of training me the right way and stuff like that. If I ever felt in a situation where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to drive, I don't do it to, like, I don't force myself. If I'm having a bad day, that's when I'm more likely to get an Uber or see if I can, you know, bum a ride from somebody or so on and so forth. Fortunately, those are few and far between. But I think, to be completely honest, what I really have to thank is, again, it's my parents for, you know, putting me through all the various orthopedic surgeries when I was a kid that got me to this point. Because, I mean, to be completely frank, without that support and those, I mean, incredibly painful moments in my life, in my youth, so to speak, I wouldn't be able to function anywhere nearly as well as I am now, and I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah,
That
sounds
is
like
awesome.
your family is pretty supportive, and that's
we had to be, you know, that was just the way it was. I mean, in the early 90s, there was years where I think I was going through a surgery a year, and you know, we did what, you know, my parents did what they had to do. I mean, I didn't really have, sounds weird just to say I didn't have to do anything, but I mean, I was 7, 8, you know, I didn't really know what was going on. It was like, oh, you know, I get to go to a school in a hospital. How cool is that? And my classmates are sending me cards saying, get well soon. And I went through my dad dropped a bunch of stuff off at my house a couple months ago, and I was going through everything, and I see these cards when I had my, you know, one of my major surgeries in 95, and I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of cool looking through all that stuff. But, you know, honestly, it was that support from the family when I was young. Didn't know it then, but I'm super grateful now.
Shout out to your family, and shout out to people who have amazing families, because I mean, honestly, I haven't had the opportunity to meet your dad or your brother or your family. One day I will, for sure. But I know if you turn out to be the way you are, I'm pretty sure your family is fantastic. And from what you have spoken to me about it, it has always been fantastic, and shout out to them for sure. Sorry that I have to go backwards a little bit, Gerard, but I want to ask you, do you have, when you were just growing up, do you have some people going through physiotherapy to better movement and all this stuff like that? Do you have to go through that, to physiotherapy in the Glen Rose? I know you touched on a little bit about the Glen Rose, but do you have to go through physio once you went to see Dr. Watt and so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, I believe by the time I was 15, I had 12 or 13 surgeries to correct gait. My left leg grew significantly faster than my right leg, so they took cartilage out of my left knee a couple times to stunt the growth of my left leg. I had that one surgery I was talking about. I had my thighs broken and rotated out. That was actually done twice to correct my gait. And then they took when I was like 9, I think it was. I was in 2nd grade. They took those plates out, and then I was running to answer the phone, and I tripped and I fractured my leg. I wound up in emergency, then and then the bone didn't set, so they wound up having to go in and re-break everything and reset it. Like, I was probably about 7, 8 months out. I was a year again of school I lost, out of class and things like that. So I mean, I've had, I don't know how much physio over the years, and you know, exercises at home that I've had to take home and, you know, get mad at my mom for nagging me to do these exercises, things like that. But no, I've had, I don't know how much physio I've had. And even now, to be completely honest, like, you know, I know my body isn't moving as well as it should be. And, you know, I would like to go to the gym and, you know, and things like that. But as we all know, people with cerebral palsy, it's not like we can just walk into a gym, go, you know, rack up and go bench press 200 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just go in and start doing things like that. So for me, it's a matter of, and one of my focuses this summer again is going to be going to physio, because my hips are out of whack. So getting my body back into what should be normal, and then from there building an exercise plan and things. So physio was a big part of my youth, through the Glen Rose, and then obviously as an outpatient and things like that. But even now, as I'm getting older, I do find that, you know, it's the CP doesn't go away, and it's not going to get any better as we get older. So I need, and this is more me telling myself, reinforcing this for myself, because I'm terrible at this, is making sure that I'm actually doing things that will help me now, because when it's going to be a heck of a lot harder to correct it at 50, 60, 70 than it is now.
Oh yeah, because the muscles are not the same, the movement is not the same, so you have to basically go to physio, and I have to do that as well. Come on, like people need to think about all these things, and to going on to that, particularly, you mentioned that you have, and I will let Leah ask this question because this is Leah's favorite question. You have a partner in your life that
yes, your girlfriend. Let's talk about it.
a wonderful girlfriend that I had the opportunity to meet a couple times, but I think 2 or 3 times. She's fantastic, and she's actually from Mexico, too as well. So she's a Mexican girl. And so Gerard is actually learning a little bit of Spanish, right, Gerard?
Excellent.
Is that correct?
Mi español no es bueno.
According to him, he says his Spanish is not that good, but he's getting there. He's getting there.
Everybody says, "Oh my God, it's good." Again, this is me. Just like, I just hate taking any credit for anything. I don't like talking about myself or doing that type of stuff. But it's, people are. I can figure it out if I have to. Like when I was actually in November in Mexico, I was in my room and the cleaner knocked on the door and somebody was trying, and I was like trying to see if they could speak English, and I kind of didn't have a choice but to figure it out in Spanish, and I didn't screw up. Like I didn't wind up in jail or anything. So I'm like, okay, I guess I must be doing okay.
So Leah, you want to ask the favorite question, which is
my favorite question. I know I love talking about dating and stuff. Just I don't know. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I have no idea. But so like, how did you guys meet, and how have you found the dating process as someone? I mean, yours is more mild, so it might not be as difficult, but I mean, still, it's a factor, and I'm just always curious about the experience when it comes to that.
No, and it's a great question, and you know what? I feel anybody with any kind of disability or any kind of life tragedy, so to speak, it's a tough question, because it's a personal thing when you're starting to you want to share your life with somebody. So I met my girlfriend online. What are we at now? A year, 4 months ago now, just a little past then, and it's gone fantastic. On my end, I've always felt, as I mentioned earlier, I'm an open book. And I kind of learned pretty quickly in my dating when I was, in my early to mid 20s. It's like, just say it. Like, there was no point in, I'm like, look, I've got a mild case of cerebral palsy. And that's exactly how I'd frame it. I have a mild case of cerebral palsy. It does limit me a little bit, but not too bad. If you enjoy hiking, I'm sorry, I'm probably not your guy. Like, if that's all you want to do. But like, if you like going to the mountains and like standing at the bottom and staring up at them, like
looking
I'm
at
your
them,
guy.
yeah, absolutely.
if you want to be at the top staring down, well, I might look to take a helicopter out.
Yes.
That kind of thing. But in addition to the cerebral palsy, when I was 29 and 30, I had some pretty significant health issues that some of it is still kind of kept with me to this day. And fortunately I'm all healthy and everything now, but it was a rough few months. And I was part of a support group over on that other end too, and they made the mention too, it's when in doubt, it's better just to be upfront and honest with it. And as hard as it is, and I'll say the first couple times that I've mentioned, like the cerebral palsy, it wasn't as bad, but it's a tough one, because you're starting to be vulnerable. You're meeting somebody where you're like, hey, this person's kind of cool, and I'd like to see where this goes. I've always been I would rather, and it's for both sides, is I never wanted to go too far down the road in dating without mentioning those things. Because lest we, for lack of a better term, catch feelings. It's not fair to you, the person with cerebral palsy. It's also not fair to the person you're dating. So it's a tough, absolutely. It's a very difficult thing, but basically the way I would frame it is, hey, I've got something I want to tell you. I have a mild case of cerebral palsy. It makes some of my day-to-day is okay. It does impact me where I will tire out a little more easily, things like that. But I hope that this isn't anything that's major for you, but it is something, it's an important part of my life that I want you to be aware of. And obviously the reaction is fine. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. In general, the right people in your life aren't going to care. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a mild case, a severe case. If they're good people and they like you for who you are, the CP is irrelevant. It really is. And so if anybody's out there that's like, I don't know, is it tough? Absolutely. But for me, I'm like, just honesty is the best policy. Be direct. Don't beat around the bush about it. Just come up with a script, say it, talk to a friend, rehearse it with a friend, whatever.
It's true.
But don't let it stop you either. Life's too short to spend it alone. And if that's what the holdup is, if somebody's being held back where they're like, again, like I mentioned, I know it's tough, but life is too short to be by yourself.
It's true. And when you describe it, it's like, even my experience as a member of the plus size community, it was always the same thing. It's like you might put up a few photos that you feel look really good, but then you start talking to someone and then it's almost like you have to be like, how do I tell them that I'm not, again, going to go climb a mountain with you? I'm not going to go for a run with you. I'll go for a walk. And it's the same thing too. It's like, I can go do fun things with you. I just might get tired a little easier. And
like my girlfriend loves running and I'm just like, not a chance. I will maybe ride my bike, or if you're running, will you run on the sidewalk? I will drive beside you in my car and cheer you on. Realistically, that's what's going to happen. I'm like, there's no way I'm running. I don't run. I don't run for free beer. I don't run, period. Like,
there's ways around it. And I think it's a balance. And I think it's okay to have things that you go do that your girlfriend might not do, and she goes and does. Like, it's important to have that. And you know what? And it's like, the CP doesn't define you, but it is a part of you.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're right. It's kind of that, this is it. Like, here it is. And the right person will not have a problem with it.
And I appreciate you saying that, Gerard, because that sticked with me today. The right person will not have a problem whether you have CP or not. When a girl starts saying you're too slow or you're this and start to get impatient, then she's not the right person for you, right?
100%.
And it might be like, with me, I had some experience where you really fell for that particular person and you start feeling like she's not putting up with your situation, then she's not the right person for you, and that's something that stick with me. And the other thing I wanted to point out with this conversation that you just brought up is when you're saying about you won't be going up in the mountains and climbing up in the mountains, but you will see it from the bottom. You do wonderful things with your girlfriend. Like, I know you guys love to go to restaurants, which I still need to go with you guys at some point. Go to restaurants. I'm pretty sure you enjoy camping too, enjoying a fire with your girlfriend. So I'm pretty, like, even though it's good to be different at the same time, and that's what I'm getting from your conversation. It's good that both of you are different. If she likes running, I'll go beside with my bike or use the car, right? And stuff like that. So it's something that really opens up my mind, because it's really cool to see the differences, but how you can really correlate and be with each other. That's something that's really interesting, really cool to me.
I mean, we're together in a relationship, but we are two different people, and it's great to do all those things together and stuff. But I mean, it would be nice to be able to go run with her, but that's okay. I'm also not going to tell her she can't go running because I can't. Like, we need to do things ourselves too, because we are our own people too. But having that support in a relationship where it's like, and the number of times, I mean, Carlos, I think you've heard it too, where she's like, you're too hard on yourself. Having that as well is absolutely. Because I think for those of us, and I don't know, Carlos, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth here too, but
go ahead.
We're our own worst critics when it comes to this type of stuff.
Absolutely.
When we have these disabilities, or these issues, and I hate calling it a disability. I mean, it technically is, but like, it's just, it's a road, it's a speed bump. It's
Yeah.
really, it's a speed bump in the road of life. But the number of times when, you know, we're out all day and like we go walk West Edmonton Mall, both levels of it, and then it's like, well, let's go here, and I'm like, ugh. Or when I was in New York and I'm like, I just did 38,000 steps today. I'm gonna die if I do any more.
Yes.
Like, to be where I've been in the past, like, oh, that's too hard. No. Oh, I'm an idiot. I can't do that. No, it's not. It's just the way it is.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and we're our own worst critics, and having those people in our corner to be like, no, that's fine. You're good. It's amazing to have that.
Yeah.
And it's good. That's good that you're saying that life is too short to be alone, because I think even though I haven't had conversations with you and Anna, too many conversations, I know that as a partner, or my assumption is that she's there for you when you're down, or when you're downing yourself, or when you're too hard on yourself, to remind you and say, hey dude, you're great just the way you are, right? And that's something that is awesome. And I mean, as a friend, we do that. I mean, every time I see Gerard, for me, he's an inspiration, not only because he drives or because he likes hockey, but he is an inspiration because he has so many things that he is so valuable, right? And I mean, you're able to hear it in this podcast, right? And so am I, and so are you, Leah. I mean, ever since you started, sorry to bring that up, but Leah was the first one to use the word fat without without feeling,
like claiming it, right? It's like
without feeling. I didn't feel. I felt at first I was like, oh, that's a little harsh, but then she realized, I'm claiming it. I'm in the plus side community.
We're trying to make it a more positive term. Like,
I'm fat, you know.
Why does fat have to be ooh, you know, why?
Yeah,
no, and
why?
You know, I think what it is a lot of the times we hear it's, oh, he has cerebral palsy. Right. No, you're a person with cerebral palsy.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not who you are. Your disability is not what defines
it. Doesn't define you.
You're defined by your friends, your core values in life, those types of things. You're not defined by this disability. And, you know, not to get too preachy about it, but I really feel, you know, a lot of times it's like, well, it's like, oh, he has diabetes, he has cancer. No, you're people with cancer, you're people with diabetes, but they're people first. People with cerebral palsy, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
You know, we have to be kinder to ourselves about it.
Yes, you're right.
That's so true. And that's an opening for people, from all of us, to say we're people first, just as you're saying. Gerard, thank you so much for that. We have one last question that Leah, you love that question too. And I think this is the theme question that we love to ask, because every answer is different, and we learn from each of the answers, and we would love to hear your answer, Gerard, from this question. So Leah, go right ahead.
Yes. Life without limits is what we're all about. So Gerard, what does life without limits mean to you? And do you feel that you live your life without limits?
Well, it's a great question. And do I feel like I live it? Well, I think a lot of the times I'm still trying to define what that is for myself. I'd like to think that I do, in that I don't sit on the couch and be like, you know, woe is me, I've got this disability, I can't do these types of things. I'm like, okay, have I got a bit of a raw hand? Yeah, probably. But I keep moving. You know, is it tough? Absolutely. But I do my best to just kind of keep moving and to try to put that stuff aside. So for me, life without limits is trying to do what I can and not think about the fact that I might be too tired at the end of the day to do something else. Or, you know, I try to live in a way that is meaningful, it's impactful to myself and to my family and those around me. But I try, as I mentioned earlier, to just not let this disability define who I am. Again, I don't have cerebral palsy. I'm a person with cerebral palsy. So do I live it? Yeah, I try. I don't know. I'll let Carlos be the judge of that a little bit too, because he knows me as well. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah, I get it.
that was a great answer, and I get it too. And I think you live a life with elements for sure. It's it's just the way you do it. Even if you're too tired by the end of the day, it doesn't mean that you don't live your life with elements. Even if you have more energy the next day, you are still, living your life with elements. And I think you do, Gerard. I think you do. And it's not only for what you do, because you drive, because you have a partner in your life. It's because of what all it entails: your values, your family, the love for people. I think that entitles a life with elements. And I think this is a great answer. Thank you so much, Gerard, for that answer, and for being a part of this show, for being able to come to this show, because I know you're a busy guy. As Leah says, it's tax season, and to put the time to do it, it's just, I really do appreciate it very much.
These stories matter no matter what. It's just, I think they matter to people who are maybe, there's that going through diagnosis with their kids or something. These stories matter, and we need to get them out there to say, you're here, and let's change this world to be a little more inclusive.
Absolutely. And
awesome people.
I really appreciate that the good work that you folks do with the CP Association. And it's nice that there is the support out there for families who may not have the again, I'm very lucky, and my family is very lucky to have had support. But it's nice to have that there are organizations such as yours that is able to provide resources to people, or to answer questions, or to do these podcasts, these types of things, to raise awareness, and to bring people on with various, from various walks of life, just to spread the love, so to speak.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I really appreciate the you guys you're having me on. Carlos, I'm sorry it took me so long to get this get to this stage, but I'm honored to have been able to. Thanks for persisting, and I really appreciate the time.
No problem. Thank you once again. And the reason why I persist, just to let people know, is because I think that Gerard has a great story, just as everyone else who we have had in the podcast. We have had fantastic stories, and I like to persist people, and that's what Leah does too. She doesn't give up. I can tell you that she's not only creeping on people. I joke around when I said that she creeps on people, but she persists to people, so then people can come, because we love this podcast. We love the stories, and the stories have to be told, as Leah just mentioned, because we need people to hear it, right? So thank you so much, Gerard, for that. Thank you for being a part of this show. We would love to have you again, maybe in the future. We want to have groups of people. Leah has lots of great ideas. I'm also going to be working with Leah on bringing some topics together. We also recorded a previous episode about sex and disabilities. Will be coming up soon.
I cannot wait to believe it.
Which by the time you listen to this one, that sex and disabilities will be out.
Go and listen to it.
You will be listening to it for sure. And there's various topics that are very interesting. Thank you, Gerard, again, for being a part of this, for showing your support to our organization, to this podcast. And yeah, thank you. Oh, and before I let you go, is there, do you feel comfortable if people want to reach out, if they can reach out to you on email, on Instagram, or not? Can we put some in the description for people to reach out to you, just in case?
Absolutely. I don't have any problems with that, Carlos. I can give you you've got my information there. I'm happy to provide that if there is anybody that's, it's a tough road, but you don't have to be alone on it, so if there is anything I can provide, absolutely, I'm more than happy to share. So for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely Leah will show you the graphics, right, Leah? Could you?
Yeah.
Graphics and everything before the episode will come up. All right.
Right.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Gerard. Thank you for all who are listening to this show. I hope you all enjoy it as much as we did. And please make sure to don't forget to live your life without limits. Take care.
Bye-bye.